Well, it is time to look at the unholy cards for Death Knight that have been revealed. So let's get started. Nerubian Swarm Guard, a 4-mana 1/3 undead with taunt. Battlecry, summon 2 copies of this minion. So yeah, Battlecry, we've seen effects like this, summoning copies in the past, and pretty interesting because if you're able to do some sort of buffing to this in your hand, then you play it, it will summon the copies of it, not just summon 2 Nerubian Swarm Guards. So they will keep those buffs if they get copied, and they had buffs. 4 does seem a little costly, but they're also undead, so we'll see on that one. It seems all right. Possessifier, 5 mana 3/3. And again, these first groupings are all 1 rune requirement here. But this is a 5 mana 3/3. Battlecry, summon 2 1/1 fighters with Rush and Reborn. It gives you more corpses, which would be the reason that you would want to use the fighters with Rush, kill them off for like that, and the Reborn. Going to give you extra corpses there, so that really feeds into the corpse mechanic, not necessarily playing this for the stats itself, which might actually be more used in this than Frost. There wasn't a lot of cards that we saw with the Frost cards that used the corpse mechanic, but again, here some more bodies. This is a Dark Transformation. It's a shadow spell, 2 mana. Transform an undead into a 4/5 undead monstrosity with Rush. So still keeping that undead tag. Got Rush. Again, another 2 mana shadow spell. Plague Strike. Deal 3 damage to a minion. If that kills it, summon a 2/2 zombie with Rush. I would assume that the zombie is also an undead. So again, with the Rush, with the undead, you're getting the corpse mechanic. So definitely seems like a lot of board presence, a lot of corpse involved mechanic with these cards so far. Dealing 3 damage to a minion. If you don't need the body, then that's fine. But also the fact that the body that summons here, if you do kill the minion, his Rush, could mean that you get to kill 2 bodies potentially on the board, depending on what the board state looks like. So pretty interesting mechanic there. Then the next one we've already did kind of see this in the IGN article, but this is a 3 mana shadow spell, Anti-Magic Shell. Give your minions +1/+1 and can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. To me, this seems a little clunky unless you really have like a full board here. 3 mana for giving your stuff 1/1 could be helpful. The can't be targeted by spells or hero powers may or may not be relevant. But this could be a decent tool to put into a deck that only has 1 unholy rune requirement. And you're probably just going to use it as a filler, I would imagine, and not build your deck around it. The next one here, Bone Digger Geist. It is a 2 mana 2/2 undead. Battlecry, spend a corpse to gain +1/+2. Again, we've kind of already seen some cards here that work with like creating things. You might not be able to have a corpse unless you played something on turn 1 and it's been killed off by if you want to play this on curve. But if you play this turn 3, 4, 5, seems very likely that you will be able to get this effect and get a 2 mana 3/4. Not the worst stats. This is just kind of one that you would add in. I don't know if you're not like building your deck around that card itself. Then we have the Unholy Frenzy, a 3 mana spell. Choose an enemy minion. Your minions attack it. Resummon any that die. So very interesting here. There's cards that have been similar to this, so I'm not surprised to see this, but the way that this actually works in practice with the corpse mechanic for Death Knights, I think is going to make it a bit more impactful and played than similar cards in other classes we've seen. Yeah, this seems really cool with the corpse mechanic. I definitely suspect that this will see play, at least at first. At least at first, I would not be surprised. The next one here, again, working with that corpse mechanic, Graveyard Shift, 3 mana, summon 2 1/1 zombies with Reborn. So they don't have Rush like some of the other cards, but you're getting extra bodies, and that's, you know, and the undead aspect, because those zombies will be undead. Definitely working with that corpse mechanic. And then we have Meat Grinder, a 3 mana, 3/4 mech. Battlecry, shred a random minion in your deck to gain 3 corpses. Pretty easy way to get some corpses. A 3/4 body on turn 3 plus 3 corpses leading into turns like 4 or 5 for some of those other cards we've already seen. We haven't even looked at, you know, the 2 and 3 rune requirement cards here. So I like this one a lot. I think this is going to be very, very versatile here. Can't play it in, you know, Frost or Blood decks that have 3. But again, a lot of these cards kind of versatile with the only 1 requirement. And then we have a legendary here, Blight Fang, 3 mana, 3/3 beast. And Battle Cry, infect all enemies with Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 zombie with taunt for your opponent. So it can seem a little confusing, but the way this one works is you are giving that death rattle to your opponent's minions, which means when they die, you will get a 2/2 zombie with taunt. I know the wording is a little bit weird. This is kind of interesting. I feel like this one is kind of a tech type card. It is a beast. Yes, it is a beast. But it feels a little bit like a tech type if you are facing decks that are kind of going on board a little bit wider, then you can clear them off. Or if you are playing a deck, I could see some potential combos where even just getting, you know, a couple of you know, giving your opponent like 3 of these death rattle effects and then clearing off their board, then you get some stuff in return. Seems like there is definitely some value to be had. This feels like an interesting card though, and I don't know how useful it will be or not, but it seems really, really cool. And again, continues to work with the undead and the corpse mechanic as well. So very versatile. All right, and moving into the 2 Unholy Rune cards. The first one here, Battlefield Necromancer, a 2 mana, 2/3. At the end of your turn, raise a corpse as a 1/2 Risen Footman with taunt. This one I really like. I think this is a really cool mechanic. It's the end of turn effect, not a start of turn. So it definitely seems like, assuming that you have 1 corpse at least, you'll be able to get at least 1 use out of this card. So it seems really cool. It's kind of creates one of those soft taunt type scenarios as well, where you know, your opponent will probably want to kill this off sooner rather than later and not give you this effect every turn. And then we have the Army of the Dead. Again, this one I did talk about in my other video from that IGN article. Army of the Dead, 5 mana shadow spell, raise up to 5 corpses as 2/2 risen ghouls with rush. Rush, very impactful. They're smaller bodies, but still you can have up to 5 of them. You don't get to choose how many of the corpses you get. It's just based on how many corpses you have when you play it. So you'd play this and the game would just check to see how many corpses you have on your little tracker and go up to 5. So if you only have 4 corpses, it will use 4. And you don't have a choice in how many it uses, but timing of this card definitely going to be important on how you want to, how many bodies you want. Our next one, Necrotic Mortician, a 2 mana 2/3 with a battle cry. If a friendly undead died after your last turn, discover an Unholy Rune card. So we did see a similar type effect with the Frost cards as well. And with that Frost card, again, very similar, discovered a Frost Rune card. So very interesting. You will not discover a Death Knight card that has no runes, and you're not going to discover one from a different pool. So I think that mechanic is going to prove to be pretty impactful, just because it's a much smaller pool of cards that you will get. So you definitely will be able to work with it a little bit more than I think if it were just discover a Death Knight card. Plus, of course, they don't want you getting, some triple from one of the other type of runes that you aren't playing with. So these seem really, really cool. It is a battle cry, and you do have to have that requirement of a friendly undead died after the last turn. It's a little bit restrictive, but I think it definitely will still see a lot of play and be very useful. Next, we have the Mirjar Deathbringer, a 3-mana 3/3 undead, taunt, and a death rattle. Spend 3 corpses to summon a 3/3 risen Mirjar with taunt. So it's going to summon a 3/3 taunt, and then the death rattle, if it dies and you have 3 corpses, you're going to summon another 3/3 with taunt. A little bit interesting that it's a death rattle and has that corpse requirement. To me, that feels a little bit slow, but the interaction of this dying and then it checking, I don't know if this dying would count as the corpse first, and then it would check that death rattle effect. If that's the case, then I think this is a little bit better. But this one feels a little bit slow to me. I kind of wait for those taunts. Then next we have Tomb Guardians, a 4-mana shadow spell. Summon 2 2/2 zombies with taunt. Spend 4 corpses to give them reborn. So again, kind of working with the corpse mechanic. If you have those corpses, you're kind of putting that effect back into the zombies with taunts. The taunt minions are going to have to die. Then they give you corpses, then they're going to have the reborn. Seems like a kind of, way to continue the corpse chain. I don't know. This one seems okay, though. It seems okay at best to me, at least right now. Then we have Stitched Giant, a 10-mana 8/8 with the undead tag, and it costs 1 less for each corpse you've spent this game. So definitely that's kind of where the last couple of cards that we've seen are really looking to kind of reuse the corpses a lot, because the more corpses you spend, the cheaper this gets. Now, giants in Hearthstone's history have been kind of interesting. They've been really hit or miss. They either seem very good or like not used at all. So I don't know. This one, I think, seems like it might be on the side of may not see play. And I think part of that is just the direction that the game overall has been going. So I think that this one might not be included in very many decks. All right, now moving into our triple rune cards. These seem like they're going to be the most influential typically. So first one is a 1-mana spell. Gain 4 corpses. Shuffle 4 crates into your deck that summon a 2/2 undead when drawn. Now, this seems really good. Definitely, if you are playing for the corpses, if you are playing for these mechanics, to play this on turn 1 and give yourself 4 corpses right from the start really fits in with the 2-mana minion I was talking about earlier that gets that battle cry. You put these crates in your deck that are going to give you more undeads, more bodies that are going to turn into corpses when you draw them. This one actually seems really good. I like that one a lot. Next up, we have Grave Strength, a 4-mana shadow spell. Give your minions +1 attack. Spend 5 corpses to give them +3 instead. Very interesting. So this whole unholy package so far that we've seen really seems to be playing in on like having bodies on the board, especially undead things, but kind of being on the board, having minions, and I don't know though. This, if you're spending 4 corpses and paying the 4 mana, or spending 5 corpses, paying the 4 mana, seems a little hefty, and you will have to have some bodies on board to get the attack. So this one I can see as well kind of being a hit or miss. I think it probably will be tested, but this one, we've seen, again, similar effects in Hearthstone's history, like Savage Roar, Bloodlust, but this one has like an added requirement, so I don't know if it's going to be played as much. And again, because it is that triple, you're only going to see it used in like full unholy decks. We'll see if those are viable and get played quite a bit. Then we have the legendary. This one was revealed during the initial like reveal trailer and initial posts. It is Lord Marrowgar, a 8 mana 9/7 undead minion with a battle cry: raise all your corpses as 1/1 risen golems with rush. For each that can't fit, give 1 +2/+2. So you really want to have a ton of corpses when you play this, or you want to have some space on the board, right? You want to have, or a little space on the board. You only want to have like maybe a couple of spaces on the board to try to get the most stat impact from these, especially if these are having rush. You know, trying to actually get them to have added stats. You can rush in and kill something larger or get value trades with those rush minions. Seems very interesting. Again, this one kind of clunky. It is that triple rune, but I'm sure that people will use it. And since we've seen with all of these cards, there are a ton of corpse mechanics. I'm sure that you will definitely have the bodies to actually get use out of that one. And the last card we have here, the Scourge, was revealed by Kriparian, and I will have his video linked down below for you to check out his reveal video as well. But this one, only two unholy rune requirements. The Scourge, 9 mana shadow spell, fill your board with random undead. This seems really cool. It potentially could put out a ton of stats. It is random, of course, and it's kind of that hefty cost with 9 mana, but they are all undead. And some of those undead that we've seen are pretty big bodies in themselves. Some of them have rush or like death rattle type things. And this is going to be pretty interesting because I don't believe if you play this, it's limited to unholy. It's just going to be any undead. So if there's undead that are from like, you know, maybe a triple or double of frost or blood, you can summon one of those as well. So this does seem like it could be very, very impactful. And I am actually pretty excited to try this one out. Again, kind of a little bit slower, hefty cost at 9 mana, but that is a ton of board presence that is possible. And if you are actually using this in the Death Knight, you're not generating it, then again, continues using that corpse mechanic as well. So this one seems really, really cool, and I am excited to try that one out. And that is the Unholy Death Knight package. Are you excited for this? Let me know in the comments below what you think of these unholy cards, and are you going to be trying a double or triple unholy deck? You like the corpse mechanic? What do you think? And if you haven't already, go ahead and check out my Death Knight deep dive video that talks all about kind of the whole rune mechanic and how the deck building for Death Knights works in general.